Hello everyone, Zanjita here, and I've got another Remnant 2 build video for you. So, if you're anything like me, you've probably seen a video or two out there about builds that allow the summons to do all of the work for you. I know I have, at least a few. The one thing I've noticed between all of them is they're generally focusing on one summon for the summoner class in particular, which is the Reaver. And I wanted to do a build of my own, but I didn't want to actually use the Reaver. So I came up with this little gem through a little bit of trial and error and just some experimentation. And what I came up with is something I like to call the Legion. I call it this because, as you can see on screen right now, I have just a whole bunch of stuff going at the one true king right now, like 90 going north. This build has both the flyers from the summoner class, plus I have the Night Guard swords, which gives me two swords that like to do ranged or melee attacks depending on their distance from the target. And it also uses the Fairy Familiar, which is probably the largest source of damage in this entire setup. With the way I've got everything set up, you can actually use all of your summons all the time and never actually fire a single shot because your two mod powers, which are going to be your extra 3 summons, basically recharge fast enough that even without shooting, they're fully recharged by the time their duration is over. Or in the case of the Knight's cards, they are actually fully recharged even well before the duration is over. And the Fairy, more often than not, is fully recharged by the time its duration lapses. Although occasionally I have seen it be not quite recharged, but it takes only a second or two for those last little few ticks to roll over, and you can get it back into the fight. As you can see right now, this little fight is going up against the one true king in Apocalypse difficulty, which did take me a few tries because, yeah, I'm not exactly god tier at this game, and my first several tries ended up getting me squashed by a one shot from out of nowhere. Generally with this build, unless it's a one shot, you can survive quite a bit. So at the end of all this, I'll get into the actual build and how I put it all together.
How's that? Huh? What you say? You ain't so tough. Yeah, you ain't so bad.
Okay, so the way we're going to be putting all of this together is starting with the archetypes. We're going to be choosing the Archon and the Summoner archetypes. Our primary one is going to be the Archon, so we can have the prime perk of Tempest. This allows us to passively generate 3 mod power per second, while doubling all of our mod generation abilities for 10 seconds whenever we cast a mod. Our skill choice is going to be the Chaos Gate. This will be one of our 2 major ways we will be able to boost the damage of our summons. Speaking of, our summon of choice is going to be the Flyer. The reason for this is because we are going to want to be able to have 5 summons available at any given time, and I feel that the Flyers are the superior choice to the Hollows because they are able to attack at range as well as hit flying targets. Our traits are going to be Flashcaster and Regrowth from Archon and Summoner respectively. Strong Back, so that we can reduce our encumbrance ability, so that allows us to wear heavier armor while maintaining lighter rolls. Fortify, to be able to boost our armor capacity by 50%. Triage, to maximize our healing. Vigor, to maximize our health. Spirit, to maximize our mod power generation. Expertise, to increase our skill cooldown. Or decrease our skill cooldown, rather, I'm sorry. Bark Skin, to reduce all damage by 10%. Rugged, to boost the health of our summons. And I decided for my last point I wanted to use Glutton. Well, I'll get into the relic a little bit in a second here, but I figured being able to use that as quickly as possible could not be a bad thing. So, As far as our gear is concerned, again, as I said, I use strong back so that I can use heavy armor. I tend to choose the bruiser armor, as that is one of the better armor sets I feel in the game that allows me to get good armor rating which is damage reduction, and allows me to keep a medium or normal roll. Our relic is going to be the pulsing heart. This is less for us and more to help heal our summons. Since we are not using a medic and our healing does not get spread around, having the pulsing heart, which is an AoE heal, allows us to catch our summons within an area of effect as long as we're close enough and help keep them alive and healthy. Our relic shards for this are going to be mythic mod cost, mod damage, and mod duration. This is so that our mods can be up as often as possible and do as much damage as we possibly can get them to do. As far as our amulets and rings, for our amulet, we're going to be using the Lair Sensor. Lemire Sensor. This increases our mod duration by 50% while increasing our mod cost by 15%. Ultimately, the second part of this really doesn't matter because, again, even with the increase of 15%, we are generally able to keep both of our mods running near or at permanent levels. The Cataloger's Jewel is just another passive 8 mod power per second generation. When we couple that with the Prime Perks 3, we get 11 per tick. When we use a mod, that is temporarily boosted to 22 per tick. Our second ring is going to be the Soul Link. Since we have so many summons out and about, having them being able to heal us on hit is always a good thing, especially when it comes to the Fairy Familiar, as it tends to hit very rapidly and will often refill your health very quickly. The Spirit Stone is just a little bit of extra mod generation power just to help us maintain our mods and keep them up all of the time. And our final ring is going to be the Soul Guard. This is why we want to have 5 summons that will allow us to get up to 5 stacks of Bulwark, adding another 25% damage reduction. Of course, with the way the formula is and everything in the game works, it actually only gives us enough to hit about 68%, and I think at base we're at like 50 something percent. So it's not an insignificant amount, and of course every bit of damage reduction helps. As far as our weapons are concerned, honestly you can use just about any combination of guns and melee weapons that you choose. The only restriction is on the guns to make sure that they're a gun that has an open mod slot so that you can put in your 2 summoning mods. I currently have on the Sparkfire shotgun and the MP, what is this again? MP60, that one. These are just guns I happened to have on me when I was trying to come up with this idea. Your melee weapon is, of course, also entirely up to your choice. I actually like using the World's Edge, and I would highly recommend it if you actually have this one, because this will actually help us with our second major way of boosting our summon damage. So, as far as the mods are concerned, rather, we're going to have the Night Guard on one of them. This one is going to be coupled up with the Harmonizer to boost their damage by 20%. This is the one that will give us 2 swords that will either attack at range or attack at melee, depending on their distance to the target. Their damage is actually very respectable, and they have huge range with their ranged attacks. Our other one is going to be the Fairy Familiar. This one is probably your major source of damage, because it actually deals respectable damage and it per hit, and it attacks very rapidly. You may have seen in the video of the fight I had with the One True King of when if he hit me, my health almost immediately returned to full, and it's all because of this little thing. And let's be real, I know it says a fairy, but it's a freaking crow. Whatever. You are definitely going to want to pair this up with feedback, though. Feedback is probably about 90% of the reason why familiar will recharge before it has completely run its course. Again, like I said, occasionally I've seen it drop a little short. I don't fully understand why, but for the most part, this thing will still recharge before it is done, which allows you to immediately re-engage it and let him go back to attacking. Uh, Now, as far as your melee weapon, um, like I said, I like using the World's Edge specifically because we can put on Tainted Blade. And with the World's Edge charged attack and that big, huge wave that travels through basically everything, this allows us to hit multiple targets very easily in group situations. And it also allows us to hit our bosses and all these other things without too much difficulty. You don't necessarily have to aim it that well, so it's kind of, you know, big, wide, shotgunny blast thing. Um, if you don't have the World's Edge, I would recommend something like the Krell Axe with Tainted Blade, which will not only, in that case, not only will it give you the Tainted Blade effect, the corroded effect, but it'll also apply overload. That's it. It'll also apply overload, which also gives you a bit of extra damage on that one. Another choice that I think would be fairly good in this would actually be the Huntress's Spear, especially now with the update that it's actually got its own built-in corrosive damage, so you can kind of stack those a little bit, because they will apply separately, although the native corrosion on the Huntress's Spear is like really short, but hey, if it can last long enough to where you can get a few extra hits in on with your summons to get a little bit extra damage, hey, all for it. Still, personally, I think this is probably one of the better, if not the best choice to do this, because this allows you to spread out that corrosion. And in group situations, it's a wonderful thing to have, because more often than not, your summons will be all over the place, just killing everything. Um, yeah, that's about it. I mean, it for the most part, I have walked through, almost quite literally walked through areas and never fired a single shot. And that's the glory of this is, again, you can keep your two mods constantly going and never actually shoot a single shot. That is it's a beautiful thing to watch. So I mean, you could literally become the ultimate expression of passive aggressive. Do nothing, and everything just falls down. um, I hope you enjoyed the video. I know I'm still not terribly great at this, but I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you like the build idea and that you try it out, and I hope you enjoy it every bit as much as I do. Thank you very much.